Friends, we can all see that many white bloggers have millions of followers. Please support me too because my followers are still few. Black bloggers also deserve to be famous. My friends, let's unite and lift each other up. Please press subscribe button and like. In the heart of a bustling city, where the skyline kissed the clouds and the streets pulsed with life, a woman named Sarah Thompson emerged from a small corner store. The rain had just ceased, leaving the pavement glistening under the flickering streetlights. Clad in a military jacket, her medals gleamed faintly, a testament to her bravery and sacrifice. But instead of receiving the respect she deserved, she was met with the cold, disdainful stares of two police officers who patrolled the area like hawks searching for prey to TO them. Sarah was not a decorated veteran who had fought valiantly for her country in distant lands. No, they saw only the color of her skin, a bias that clouded their judgment and fueled their prejudice. Within moments, the situation escalated. Their voices rose, accusations flew, and they deemed her suspicious simply because she clutched her grocery bag a little too tightly, as if it were a shield against their piercing glares. When Sarah spoke back, her voice calm yet firm, she was met with laughter. They mocked her service, belittling her sacrifices as if they were meaningless. Before she could gather her thoughts, they twisted her arms behind her back, handcuffing her so tightly that pain shot through her wrists. Her cries echoed in the stillness of the street, a painful reminder that justice was often selective in the land she had fought to protect. Deus' neighbors peeked nervously from behind curtains, too afraid to intervene. The officers dragged her toward their squad car. One of them muttered under his breath that she should have known her place. Sarah lifted her head, tears brimming in her eyes, but her voice remained steady as she whispered to herself, "If I can survive war, I can survive this humiliation." Deep down, she understood that this was not merely an arrest, it was an assault on her dignity, a betrayal of every promise made to her as an American citizen. Little did those officers know that the next 30 minutes would bring a reckoning so powerful it would shake the very foundations of their precinct and expose the ugliness of their prejudice to the world. The police station buzzed with fluorescent lights and the stale smell of burnt coffee when they shoved her inside. The handcuffs dug deeper into her wrists, and her military jacket, once pristine, was now wrinkled and damp from the rain. Yet, even in that moment of humiliation, she stood taller than the men around her, her spine seemingly forged from steel. The officers, however, saw only what they wanted, a target to belittle, someone to strip of her humanity. They jeered at her, laughing about how a war hero now sat in their custody like a common criminal. One officer leaned in close, his breath hot and sharp with arrogance, sneering, "Tell me, ma'am, was it worth it? Fighting for a country that doesn't give a damn about you?" Meanwhile, another officer scribbled lies onto a report sheet, fabricating charges out of thin air, accusations of resisting arrest and threatening conduct, words heavy enough to destroy her record, her reputation, her freedom. But Sarah refused to break. She sat silently, staring straight ahead, her eyes burning with unspoken fire, remembering her comrades who had fallen beside her in uniform, vowing that no matter the enemy, she would never bow down. Yet here she was, surrounded not by foreign threats but by her own countrymen in blue, men who had sworn an oath to protect but instead wielded their badges like weapons of hate. As they processed her like a criminal, taking fingerprints and snapping photos, they taunted her about how mug shots suited her better than medals. Her heart ached not for herself but for every young girl of color watching from the sidelines of life, learning too early that even heroism could not shield them from prejudice. Just when it seemed the night would drown her in despair, a ripple of tension moved through the air. First came the sound of heavy boots outside, then the sudden slam of car doors, followed by authoritative voices that filled the lobby with a storm of command. In the blink of an eye, the laughter of the officers died in their throats as the glass doors burst open, and a team of FBI agents swept inside like a tidal wave of justice. Their jackets bore 3 bold letters that could silence any room. Their presence was so sharp and commanding that the station itself seemed to shrink under their authority. In that moment, every mocking word, every derisive laugh, every false charge written against Sarah trembled on the edge of exposure. These agents had not come for a courtesy visit, they had come for reckoning, and the truth they carried would turn the night upside down. The room froze as the FBI agents stormed forward, their polished boots thundering against the tiled floor, their eyes sharp and unflinching as they scanned the chaos before them. The officers who had laughed so loudly just moments ago now shrank into the corners of their own station, their arrogance crumbling like glass underfoot. The agents were not there by accident. They carried files, thick folders, and a trail of recorded complaints that painted a picture darker than any of those officers dared to admit. A history of targeted arrests, falsified reports, and racially charged misconduct had been whispered about for months but never confronted until now. At the center of it all sat Sarah, the woman they had tried to break, her hands still bound but her presence radiating a quiet defiance that drew the agent's attention immediately. One agent, a tall man with a calm but thunderous voice, stepped forward, holding out his badge with an authority that silenced the room. "This woman is under federal protection now," he declared. With those words, the fragile illusion of power that the cops had clung to shattered completely. They tried to recover, stumbling through excuses, claiming she had resisted, that she posed a threat. Their words dripped with desperation rather than confidence. Yet every lie they spoke only tightened the noose around their own careers. The agents had come prepared, body cam footage already confiscated, eyewitness accounts already collected, and a federal warrant in hand that did not just question the night's arrest but reached back months, even years, into a pattern of corruption that stained the very walls of the station. As the agents moved closer, one unlocked Sarah's cuffs with a gentle precision that contrasted painfully with the brutality she had endured. She felt a rush of air fill her lungs, as if she was breathing freedom again. Yet her chest was heavy too because she knew what this meant. Her suffering tonight was not hers alone. It was proof, evidence, fuel for something larger. While the officers squirmed under the fluorescent lights, sweating and silent, the lead agent turned his gaze to the captain, who had pretended ignorance for too long. "You've built this place on intimidation and fear. But tonight it ends." Those words echoed like a verdict long overdue, a promise of justice not just for Sarah but for everyone who had been silenced before her. In that charged moment, as tension twisted through the air like a storm about to break, Sarah sat taller, her wrists free, her dignity intact. She knew that the next steps would decide not only her fate but perhaps the future of countless others who had walked through those same doors with hope and left in chains. The air inside the precinct was suffocating. Every heartbeat pounded like a drum as the FBI agents spread out, their presence dismantling the false authority that had ruled these walls for years. The officers who once strutted with unchecked arrogance now stood like children caught in a lie too heavy to defend, their eyes darting, their voices faltering. The lead agent, his voice steady and cold as steel, began reading aloud from the warrant, listing names, dates, and cases that reeked of corruption. Black teenagers wrongfully jailed, veterans harassed and dishonored, single mothers arrested on fabricated charges. With every name he spoke, the walls seemed to echo with the cries of those who had been silenced until the weight of truth became too heavy for even the captain to carry. His jaw trembled, his face drained of color as he realized this night was no longer about one woman but about an entire system being dragged into the light. And there sat Sarah, the veteran they had tried to destroy, now standing as the living embodiment of resilience. Her presence was a mirror forcing them to face their ugliness. When the agent turned to her, asking softly if she wanted to press charges, her eyes welled with tears, not of weakness but of strength. She understood the gravity of this moment, the chance to ensure that no other woman of color, no other veteran, no other innocent soul would have to endure what she had endured. With her voice steady, though her heart raced, she answered, "Yes, every last one of them." Her words struck the room like a thunderclap, erasing the last shred of bravado from the officers' faces. Some lowered their heads in shame while others stared blankly as handcuffs, unforgiving steel, clicked onto their wrists, the same steel they had abused against others. As they were lined up, their badges stripped, their power gone, Sarah felt a strange silence settle inside her. A silence filled with justice, grief, and triumph all at once. She knew her battle was not over, but tonight was proof that truth could prevail. As the agents led the disgraced officers away, the entire station trembled under the weight of its reckoning. Sarah stepped outside into the cool night air, the rain having finally cleared, the stars breaking through the clouds. With her head held high, she whispered to herself and to the unseen faces of every person wronged before her, "They tried to break me, but instead, we broke them." In that moment, the story was no longer hers alone. It belonged to a nation waking up, a nation forced to look at itself in the mirror. Though scars would remain, her courage had carved a path for others to follow. A reminder that dignity, once stolen, could always be reclaimed. A new beginning. As Sarah walked away from the precinct, the cool night air wrapped around her like a comforting embrace. The stars twinkled above, a stark contrast to the darkness she had just faced. Each step felt lighter, as if the weight of injustice had begun to lift. She knew that the battle she had fought was not just for herself but for countless others who had suffered in silence, their stories buried beneath the weight of systemic oppression. In the days that followed, Sarah became a beacon of hope in her community. News of her ordeal spread like wildfire, igniting conversations about racial injustice and police brutality. People began to gather, sharing their own experiences, their own stories of pain and resilience. Sarah found herself at the forefront of a movement, her voice echoing the sentiments of those who had long been silenced. She organized rallies, bringing together people from all walks of life to stand in solidarity against the injustices that plagued their city. Each gathering was a testament to the power of unity, a reminder that change was possible when voices were raised in unison. Sarah spoke passionately about her experiences, urging others to share their truths, to reclaim their narratives. Her words resonated deeply, igniting a fire within those who had felt powerless for far too long. As the movement gained momentum, Sarah found herself invited to speak at various events, sharing her story on platforms that reached far beyond her city. She became a symbol of resilience, a living testament to the strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity. With each speech, she emphasized the importance of accountability, urging those in power to recognize their role in perpetuating systemic racism and injustice. But Sarah knew that her journey was not just about raising awareness, it was about creating tangible change. She began to collaborate with local organizations, working to implement reforms within the police department and advocating for policies that would protect marginalized communities. Her efforts were met with resistance, but she remained undeterred, fueled by the support of those who stood beside her. As the movement grew, so did the challenges. Sarah faced threats and intimidation from those who felt threatened by her activism. Yet, she stood firm, drawing strength from the community that had rallied around her. She understood that change was often met with resistance, but she was determined to push forward, to dismantle the systems of oppression that had long been entrenched in society. Through it all, Sarah remained grounded in her purpose. She often reflected on her time in the military, the lessons she had learned about courage, sacrifice, and the importance of standing up for what is right. Those experiences had shaped her into the woman she was today, a warrior not just on the battlefield but in the fight for justice. As the months passed, Sarah's efforts began to bear fruit. The police department implemented new training programs focused on de-escalation and cultural competency. Community engagement initiatives were established, fostering dialogue between law enforcement and the communities they served. While these changes were just the beginning, they represented a significant step toward healing and reconciliation. That Sarah's journey was far from over, but she had ignited a movement that would continue to grow and evolve. She knew that the fight for justice was ongoing, that there would always be battles to face. But she also knew that she was not alone. Together with her community, she had forged a path toward a brighter future, one where dignity, respect, and justice were not just ideals but realities for all. In the quiet moments, as she reflected on her journey, Sarah felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, her spirit unbroken. The scars of her past would always remain, but they served as a reminder of the battles fought and the victories won. With each new day, she continued to rise, a warrior for justice, a champion for those who had been silenced, and a beacon of hope for a better tomorrow. And as she looked up at the stars shining brightly above, she whispered a promise to herself and to the world. I will keep fighting, for every voice that has been silenced, for every soul that has been wronged. Together, we will reclaim our dignity, and together, we will rise. Curious about what happens next to the characters? Don't miss part 2, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned.